What a headshot! What a head!
How's it guys, this is Dayvy, FPL, and welcome back to the Fantasy Premier League video here on my channel. Now in this video, I'll take you guys through my team selection for the upcoming Game Week 13. So Game Week 12 to Game Week 13, super quick transition, and therefore I'm recording this on Thursday afternoon before the final Game Week 12 games have actually concluded. So please just keep that in mind, but don't worry, it's going to affect our kind of transfer plan unless Arsenal's game tonight in the Europa League does have some unexpected surprises. Now why I'm saying that is that there's no surprise that the Game Week 13 debate for transfers is going to come down to FODEN versus SAKA. Don't worry, I'm going to almost ultimate guide it. We're going to be going through the stats on those two players and deciding who's the best option to get in for Game Week 13 and onwards. But before that, going to take a look at Game Week 12, even though it hasn't finished yet, still going to look at how we've done, and therefore also give you guys the updated rank. Then we're going to switch our attention to the transfer plan, and finally we're going to wrap up with the Game Week 13 team selection that I know you guys are all here for. So that's something you guys are interested in, sit back, relax, and let's get straight into it. So first off, taking a look at Game Week 12, I've mentioned this, recording this on Thursday afternoon. The Fulham game has not concluded yet, and therefore I still do have two players still to feature. But after the majority of the games happen on Wednesday, I decided to do this kind of review as we still do have a lot of talking points to go over. So bottom right hand side, the updated stats, 44 points, -4 obviously. That actually did two transfers with only one free transfer available for Game Week 12, and I'll talk about those transfers a little bit later on. So the Game Week rank is therefore going to be 1.6 million, and currently we are on a green arrow to just about the 350k mark. Now in terms of the transfer plan for the upcoming Game Week 13, bottom right hand side, one free transfer and 4.3 million in the bank. So yes, absolutely balling for Game Week 13, so let's hopefully make a nice upgrade. I'm going to start off on our bench because there's not much to talk about on the bench. Danny Ward's the only option on our bench that actually has a fixture. Leeds at home, but I'm not expecting too many clean sheets from him. Then in terms of the options that we chose to bench or at least keep for the upcoming game weeks, Haaland, Cancelo and Martinelli, no brainers in my opinion, but then also did lose De Bruyne to Salah. So going on to our starting 11, and finally it seems like the Newcastle clean sheets are flowing in. Nick Pope managed to rack up another clean sheet. Unfortunately no save points. I think Everton didn't even have a shot on target, so no saves were made in the entirety of the 90 minutes for Nick Pope, and therefore it's just going to be the 6 base points for the clean sheet. Now Game Week 13 had a lot of clean sheets on the cards. You guys probably had a couple of them in your defense, and that's going to continue into the rest of our back four. So Neco Williams, the clutch player probably of Game Week 12 for us. Because he is so cheap, any kind of returns are going to come super valuable, and that's why I was really happy for him to keep the clean sheet. Now the other side of the debate though is I brought in Trossard this week, so because he kept a clean sheet, obviously Brighton didn't end up scoring, and that was a little bit disappointing. Next up is going to be Kurt Zouma, an option that we didn't even know was going to start in Game Week 12, managed to actually have some training before the Liverpool game, and then a late decision was made on him to actually start. So I'll take those 2 points any day of the week. At least he didn't keep a clean sheet, but unfortunately, my captain Salah didn't end up scoring against him. Now I was actually going over debate on the deadline stream whether to take Kurt Zouma out for Trent Alexander-Arnold. Didn't exactly know if it was going to be worth the -4 hit. That would have actually been worth the -4 hit, as Trent ended up getting 8 points. But it is what it is at the end of the day, and maybe against Nottingham Forest on the weekend, Trent might be benched, so then at least we might make up those points in Game Week 13. Then Trippier, the main performer of our Game Week 12 squad and our defense, a massive 9 points, and if you guys did captain and mention this over on Twitter, a couple of managers actually did captain Trippier, you guys would have been absolutely smiling. Now Trippier got the 6 clean sheet points, but because of his kind of chances created, managed to wrap up all 3 bonus points as well. So Dayvy was happy with his performance, but against Everton at home, I guess that's a little bit expected. Then our final defender to go for the transfer in last week is going to be Anderson. Managed to rack up 2 points, one more than Gay. He got a yellow card, so pretty happy about that decision, but still, Gay is outperforming him over the last 2 game weeks. So in terms of the Crystal Palace defense, I thought it might be a locked-in clean sheet, but unfortunately, Adama Traore managed to score in the first half, so that clean sheet was wiped out quite early on. But still relatively happy with the Crystal Palace defense. Don't really have to rely on them for too many game weeks in the future, but if I do, I still am quite comfortable. So overall, as you guys can see in our back 5, 3 clean sheets. Kurt Zouma against Liverpool, just happy that he featured. Then Anderson, a little bit unlucky that he lost the clean sheet. Now going on to midfield department, and things aren't as rosy as they were in our defensive department. Going to start off with our captain Salah, ended up blanking only the clean sheet point, so 3 double to 6, and he obviously was one of my transfers in for this week. Now I don't really know what to make about Salah because in terms of the West Ham game, wasn't really that lively. Yes, he did have 1 or 2 shots, but they weren't kind of big chances, and overall that's was a little bit disappointed that he started on the right hand side. Towards the end of the fixture, when Diaz was subbed off, we also had some other attacking rotation, then Salah was up front, and then he looked a little bit more lively. But I guess we did buy him for the upcoming games. Nottingham Forest away, Leeds at home coming up. Great fixtures on paper, so hopefully he can rebound from Game Week 12. Then talking about our transfers in, another transfer in, almost a 1 week punt. The popular transfer in this week, in terms of the FPL community, was going to be Trossard in for Maddison. So only the 3 points came from Trossard, but in the first half had so many shots that actually started left wing back, which wasn't too favourable, but actually hit the crossbar I do believe, and made a few saves out of the goalkeeper. So I guess if you are a Dean Henderson owner, you can thank Trossard because a lot of those saves came from him, but unfortunately no tacky returns for that transfer in. Now in terms of kind of net gained or net lost, in terms of the minus for it that we actually did take, Maddison to Trossard was minus 1 point net gained, but because we have to use a transfer on him out, I don't think this is the best transfer to do. But still, when you guys see his chances that he had, I'm willing to take that punt because he did have a few. Then the next option finally managed to return on our FPL team, and to be Wilfried Zaha, managing to get 8 points, a goal and some bonus points. They got 1 bonus point at the end of the day, but played really well in the second half for that Crystal Palace game. So I was actually watching this game live, and I don't think I've celebrated a goal as much as I have because, as you guys know, I did SAKA to Zaha a couple of weeks ago. Hasn't really been the best transfer in my opinion, but finally Wilfried Zaha managed to outscore SAKA, even though SAKA blanked. Now the next two options I'm going to kind of group together. Andreas and Mitrovic both played tonight. Hopefully Mitrovic does actually feature. He said after the game on the weekend that he hasn't exactly recovered from that knock he picked up on Serbian duty. But against Aston Villa at home, if both of these two players start, I do actually think they might get a return. So let's just hold thumbs. I think that 44 points might rise. So let's hope that we get a nice little green arrow. And the final player to talk about is going to be Solanke. Only the 2-point appearance. Yes, he did have some penalty shots there. Could potentially have actually won one. But overall, Bournemouth weren't kind of getting those shots on target. And seems like they went back to their old attacking ways. So quite disappointed in that because of obviously the amount of shots he took. I think he took about 5 shots off target. So I just wish that one of them went in. But as you guys can see, a pretty lackluster performance, but it was quite a mediocre kind of game week overall. And that's why 44 points, minus 4 to 40, still gets us a green arrow. Let me know how you guys did in Game Week 12. Did you get a higher score than myself or a lower score? Was it a massive green arrow or was it unfortunately a red arrow? And what are you thinking about going into Game Week 13? So going on to our transfer plan for the upcoming game week, and as you guys would have seen on my game week 8 wildcard plan, I've discussed this throughout the kind of deadline streams. When I did bring Trossard in, it was simply a 1-week punt. And you guys can see that on the screen right now. Man City away up next, then after that Chelsea at home and Wolves away. Tough games on paper, and that's why Trossard for me is a no-brainer transfer out. But here's where the kind of dilemma sets in. Mentioned this in the introduction to this video, but SAKA vs Foden is the main kind of debate to go for the upcoming Game Week 13. Now in terms of my initial plan, you guys would have known this on the deadline stream, I was initially going to go for SAKA for the next 2 game weeks. I'm going to bring him up on screen right now to show you. Southampton away is a great game, as well as Nottingham Forest at home. So my initial plan was to actually bring in SAKA for the next 2 game weeks, then once he hits that Chelsea away game in Game Week 15, take him to Phil Foden, who has Fulham at home. So this was the plan to go for, but I'm going to switch on to Phil Foden right now, because there's a debate to go for that actually, because we're bringing Phil Foden in come Game Week 15, we might as well just bring him in for Game Week 13. He has Brighton at home, not the worst game in the world. Leicester away though is a very nice fixture, then obviously that Fulham at home game we'll have him anyways. So what do you guys think? Do you think over the next 2 purely on fixtures, do you think Brighton at home and Leicester away are 2 better fixtures than Southampton away and Nottingham Forest at home? What side are you currently on for those 2 fixtures? Now this debate for me is not simply kind of cut and dry. I want to go over some stats, and that's why I'm going to go into a stats debate, almost kind of an ultimate guide section in the next talking point. So in terms of the fixtures, I think right now Arsenal's fixtures are slightly better over the next 2. We'll therefore bring Phil Foden in come Game Week 15 and 16, and I think that makes most sense on the fixture play. But in terms of the kind of overall structure of your team, I do think there's a debate to go for with Phil Foden. If you want to get him for Game Week 15 anyways, Brighton at home and Leicester away aren't the worst fixtures in the world, and that's why I just bring him in now and then hope for the best. Now I want to talk about kind of fixture rotation here because this is a very congested period in terms of the fixtures. We have Arsenal playing tonight against PSV in the Europa League, and therefore please watch out for Saka's minutes. Then we obviously have the Europa League and Champions League coming up next midweek. Man City have some tough games, Dortmund and Sevilla coming up, but they have actually racked up qualification, I do believe. So Phil Foden, I think, is a great asset to go for, but when you do compare him to Saka, who's also guaranteed to play every game and is on penalties, Saka might edge it slightly. But these are kind of the general talking points to go over in terms of team structure, kind of banking or penciling and transfers, fixture congestion. Now let's go into the stats debate. So what I went and did was I went over to my favorite website, Fantasy Football Fix. You guys know I've used them for the past couple seasons. I went over to their Optus Stats Sandbox. And that's going to be the first screenshot that you guys see on screen. So what these stats are telling you are the expected stats. I know that some of you guys might not like XG, XA, that sort of thing, but I personally do like them. And that's why I sorted these according to per 90-minute averages. So on the far right hand side, that's going to be expected FPL points over the opening couple game weeks. And as you guys can see, in terms of the games played, Foden slightly edges it at 5.66 points per game. Now Saka's not too shabby himself, 5.28 is very good, but it's quite interesting to see that Foden does edge him on that stat. Now the big thing for me is going to be on XG, because just remember that Saka is obviously on penalties, Phil Foden is not, and when you do compare their XG including penalties, Phil Foden still outshines Saka. Now I know it is quite close, 0.4 to 0.38, but that definitely is something to note and take care of. In terms of XA, Phil Foden yet again being the better option, 0.21 to 0.11. And another stat that's quite interesting to see is going to be the XG of the team. So what that's saying is that Man City compared to Arsenal per game, Man City obviously have the high XG. We've detailed this in the Ultimate Guides. I do believe Arsenal are second though in the Prem at the moment. So both these two sides are great from an attacking point of view. But overall, in terms of the stats, yes, we do have SAKA that has kind of played more minutes and is more guaranteed to start. But for Foden's XG and XA still look pretty strong. So what I would say is that if you guys ask kind of stats-based managers, Phil Foden's better option to go for than SAKA, but it is quite close between these two. Now to kind of add another dimension to the stats debate, I went over to projected points, still from Fantasy Football Fix. I went for the next 4 game weeks. As you guys know, from now till game week 16, obviously get the wild card in game week 17, so not really looking far ahead. But in terms of expected points, SAKA just edges Phil Foden. But what I want to detail here is that my kind of transfer plan I mentioned early on, getting SAKA in for the next 2 fixtures, then switching to Phil Foden come game week 15 and 16, in terms of the projected points, they also agree with me. Now I do know that the projected points are quite similar between these two, but generally projected points are quite conservative. So if you guys are looking at an option from now till game week 16, maybe SAKA looks pretty strong. I'd probably disagree with the fixed projected points here. I'd say the next 4 I would go with Phil Foden rather. So if you want to set and forget option, the stats say Phil Foden, and I personally agree with them. But I do think if you guys want to go for a kind of a switcheroo here, go for the next 2 game weeks on SAKA, the next 2 game weeks on Foden, I actually prefer that style, and that's why currently that's what I'm locking in. But do let me know in the comments down below, are you team Foden or are you team SAKA? Which option are you bringing in? Why are you bringing them in? And if you had to bring one of these options for the next 2 games or the next 4 games, who would it be? But now taking that kind of information about SAKA and Foden, I'm going to lock in the transfer of SAKA in, obviously for Trossard, and that's going to leave us with 3.3 in the bank. Now there might be some other transfers that do come up. Let's just say Mitrovic gets injured tonight against Aston Villa. I could always do a switch to someone like a Darwin, or I could also bring in a Trent for someone like a Zuma if there's not positive news about him. But right now I'm just going to assume 1 free transfer is used. Trossard to SAKA is going to be the one that I lock in. So starting off on our bench, and there's going to be some debates here, some spoiler alerts, because obviously I'm benching Nick Pope against Spurs, so you guys know who my goalkeeper is going into game week 13. But we'll get onto that in a little bit. I'm also benching Salah against West Ham. I'm starting Zuma, so going to play the odds there and just hope that Bournemouth do blank. Then combining Nick Pope's benching, I'm combining Trippier as well. I just think Spurs are going to look for a reaction after the loss to United. But these 2 assets could actually be on my starting 11. Then finally, Neco Williams, the only kind of obvious one on the bench. Liverpool at home's not a great game, and he might not even play, even though Serge Aurier and himself played in the midweek. Going on to our starting 11, and here's the big man himself, Danny Ward against Wolves away. Tough game on paper, but every game's a tough game for Leicester's defense at the moment. But I just trust Leicester against Wolves away more than I do trust Newcastle against Spurs. Now I am currently leaning towards Ward on a 60-40, but this could kind of edge closer as the deadline approaches, and I might just go back to the security of that Newcastle defense. But let's just roll with Danny Ward for now. Maybe tonight's game against Leeds is going to sway my thoughts if they do concede a few. Then our back 3 is going to start off with Cancelo. Benched him in game week 12, coming straight back into the lineup for game week 13 with a lovely fixture against Brighton at home. Now if Brighton can't score against Nottingham Forest, surely they can't score against Man City, so this should be quite a high scoring game for Cancelo. I'm also expecting a reaction after the loss to Liverpool in game week 11, and I do still expect Cancelo to start even after the mistake against Liverpool. Next up is going to be Kurt Zuma, Bournemouth at home. Obviously that's why I'm benching Solanke. I don't really trust that Bournemouth attack. I do trust the West Ham defense, and they put on a good show against Liverpool last night, and they are putting up some good defensive stats. Then our final defender to go for is going to be Anderson, not Andreas as I always call him. Anderson from Crystal Palace. Everton away. Would have preferred a home fixture, but Everton also struggling to score at the moment. Then moving on to midfield department, this is the reason that we brought Mo Salah in. Nottingham Forest away. Great fixture on paper. I mean, surely he will score against Nottingham Forest, one of the worst defenses in the Prem. I just hope that he doesn't get rotated with the Champions League next week. Now another thing about Salah is that I do hope that he starts at the centre forward position, as him on the right hand side or right mid side hasn't been returning the points. Then we have Zaha against Everton, a little bit of a tougher game there. Everton, yes, their XG conceded has been quite high, but in terms of actual goals conceded, they've been pretty low. But still, I do trust Zaha to score, going to have a lot of confidence after his goal against Wolves, and that's why I hope for the best. Now we are going to be relying on Andreas against Leeds away. Now him or Solanke is going to be a debate to go for. I currently am on Andreas, but hopefully tonight he puts on a show, and that'll leave me with more confidence. Now the big thing about game week 13 is obviously going to be the transfer in, and yes, I'm going to be going for SAKA currently, but please remember this isn't kind of a locked in transfer. We'll confirm it on Discord if I do make the move tonight, otherwise we'll make it in the deadline stream coming up on Saturday. But currently, SAKA and Martinelli, I'm going to combo these 2 options. Great fixture on paper, Southampton away, kept their first clean sheet in the Prem in game week 12, but hopefully Arsenal can break that run. Now both these 2 assets I have a lot of faith in. SAKA obviously on penalties, both these options should play 90 minutes, but please do monitor the situation with the Europa League tonight against PSV. So this could be SAKA, could be Foden, both have great games in game week 13 anyways, so whoever we bring in should hopefully get us some points. Then finally go on to our 2 forwards, it's going to be Haaland, obviously Brighton at home, great fixture, benched him because he's simply outstanding, and I do expect him to get a few goals against Brighton. Then the final forward and our final player in our starting 11 is going to be Mitrovic. Has a nice fixture against Leeds away, great game on paper, but I do hope that he is fit after playing tonight. Now finally, in terms of captaincy, I'm going to put it straight back on Erling Haaland. Had a little bit of a break on Mo Salah in Game Week 12, didn't provide the goods, and that's why I'm going back to the Norwegian who's been so consistent. But yes, I do understand if you guys do want to go for a Mo Salah, great fixture on paper, but I do just trust Haaland, and he has had a nice little break from Game Week 11 to Game Week 13. Let me know how your guys' team selection is currently going. Who are you captaining? Are you going for Salah? Are you going for another differential? Or are you sticking with the man himself, Erling Haaland? Also, let me know what your transfer plan is. Are you bringing in FODEN? Are you bringing in SAKA? As I mentioned, Team FODEN or Team SAKA going to Game Week 13. Or are you bringing in someone different like a Darwin? You guys can let me know all that in the comments down below. Otherwise, reach out to me on my Discord server where I am slightly more active. But this is basically wrap up the video, guys. Hopefully you did enjoy it. Please like it if you didn't, subscribe if you haven't subscribed yet. I'll be seeing you guys tomorrow, maybe for a video, otherwise on the deadline stream on Saturday, 1 hour before the deadline. But I'm going to sign off. It's been Dayvy FPL, and I'm out. Cheers, bye.